Welcome to the Stat Pack, powered by Infosys. In this section, we dive into the top 3 insights from the Miami E-Prix. Infosys, the digital innovation partner of the Formula E Championship, is a global leader in next-generation digital services and enable enterprises to navigate their next. Now let's jump into our weekly segment and see how these key data points painted a picture of the race. So Sam, you want to highlight a particular lap and take us through why that is so crucial.
Yeah, I thought there was a crucial lap, a single lap, and it was when Da Costa and Evans were fighting between them. And Mitch mentioned the traction that he had on his Jaguar I-Type 7 and how potent it was, particularly out of that hairpin. We saw it on that eventual switchback, which was the race-defining or the race-winning move on Nico Muller slightly later. But going back to lap 27, or going into lap 27, we had this remarkable situation of the two Jaguars duking it out. And where have we seen that before, right? I mean, London usually, with not fantastic results. But this time, Da Costa had the line going into the first turn, and Mitch Evans put it on the outside, and it looked like it might be a bit marginal for a minute, but he got through, and interestingly enough, 2 corners later, Drugovich rammed into the back of Da Costa. That could easily have been Mitch Evans if he hadn't have got that track position. But in terms of how Mitch built his race from an early stage, in that early phase, he hadn't taken the attack. He was quite a distance away. They were separated from that initial lead pack, but the pace that he showed in terms of the 300 kilowatt pace was just building the race, feeling his way, getting a sort of, not an energy save, but understanding how he could spend his energy, and then thinking about later when he switched on to the 350 and he could go back up to the lead pack and get on their tail. And I think from that point of view, in terms of the lap times that Mitch was putting in there compared to Nico Muller, who was his direct opposition in terms of the race win and achieving that race win, it just highlighted that traction that the Jaguar had, and also how he was able to use his first attack mode, get onto that tail and make progress. And I think as well, it's worth highlighting when he did take that final attack, how he got through in terms of getting ahead of his direct opposition, and that benefited Mitch's position of executing this victory. So I think that lap 26-27 period, really crucial, and also in terms of executing the win, just exploiting that traction and those lap times I mentioned that we saw and highlighted, getting onto the tail of that group, and then the late race pace, which I thought was just really showed that Jaguar had a massive advantage in the Miami E-Prix. This episode is brought to you by Infosys. When enterprises turn to AI, they need more than tools. They need a partner who can scale innovation responsibly. That's where Infosys comes in. From modernizing systems to deploying enterprise-grade AI, Infosys helps businesses lead with confidence. Beyond the boardroom, Infosys is transforming the world of electric racing as the official digital innovation partner of Formula E. Visit Infosys.com to learn more about how Infosys is helping businesses stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, I love the lap times matrix that are supplied in this, and you can see right from the moment that the race started in earnest, not counting those first few laps, how a model of consistency Evans was, and he was just relentlessly banging in these 68-second laps. Whereas you mentioned Muller, he's up and down, sometimes at a 70, occasionally he would do a 67, but that was absolutely the foundations. The bit I wanted to talk about for mine, though, is that there's an overtakings chart per team. And while there, obviously in Formula E, there are always tons of overtakes, 128 in total. But actually, I'm not looking at the high end of this. I'm looking at the bottom, because 2 teams that we would have genuinely expected to do very well in this race had utter stinkers. And they were DS Penske and Nissan. And between them, they did 11 overtakes. And bear in mind how much time you're in attack mode in that period. I think that's a really staggering statistic, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, it just showed if you went the wrong way on setup. We saw the rain come 45 minutes before the start of the race. There was a lot of activity on the grid, changing the damper settings, the ride height, but most of all, the crucial element and the sort of buzz phrase of this race was tyre pressures. The Hancocks are so sensitive, even in dry conditions, but when it's damp and when it's wet, they are very, very challenging to get right and get into that sweet spot. And we saw some gambles, and certainly Max Gunter, who remarkably was lapped twice. I mean, when did we last say that in a race? He was literally nowhere. It must have been immensely frustrating for Max. And the Stellantis cars just didn't have any inherent pace in those conditions, which was a big surprise to them. But ultimately, it was a combination of the dry settings and particularly the tyre pressures, and ditto for Nissan as well. Just didn't have any kind of collective pace in that car, and it showed with some devastating lap times in terms of getting anywhere near the leading group, which was impossible.
On the flip side, there are a lot of drivers who are able to benefit from being on the right settings, and there was one particular meteoric rise that you wanted to flag here.
Yeah, Sebastian Buemi. I mean, we saw him in Mexico have that incredible turn of pace, really, particularly in the third sector. And I think it is no coincidence that traction is the key for Jaguar. And he's in a Jaguar, customer Jaguar with Envision, of course. He had an absolute nightmare qualifying, the complete antithesis of Mexico City. He was a one-man Mahindra wrecking ball in qualifying. Contacted Edo Mortara at 10:13, balked Nick de Vries. He got a combined 8-place grid drop, so he was on the back foot in that sense. The expectation was it was going to be an energy race. It wasn't because of the conditions. There was still quite a bit of energy saving, but Seb's overtaking, when we look at the stats of how he constructed his race and got through into position to eventually get the points that he got, he made 14 total overtakes, but 12 of those were done in the 300 kilowatt mode. So he earned his points at Miami, and the way that he came through I thought was really not flawless, because they left it a little bit late to do both attack modes so late. You can do that, of course, this year with the new regulation. But I think if Seb had actually have timed it a little bit better, maybe a lap before, he could have cleared the Mahindras potentially, and it'd have been a nice sort of squaring the circle of his Mahindra activity, shall we say, if he'd have got them. But he had to settle for a position behind them. But a really hard earned race there, and a lot of experience came to play, I think, for Sebastian Buemi and Envision at Miami. An excellent race from him, and bodes well for a good sort of underpinning of his season to come.